This day in sports history. It's July 10th, and on this day in 1953, Ben Hogan won the British Open. Now, 1953 was a banner year for Hogan. 4.5 years removed from the car accident that nearly took his life, Hogan had won the Masters for a second time in April, shooting a record score in doing it. In June, he had won the U.S. Open by 6 shots, marking the 4th time that he'd won that tournament. And now here he was making his first and what would be his only appearance in the Open Championship. Hogan would prove to be unbeatable. The Open was played at Carnoustie that year. Many who had played it called it Carnasty. Hogan had been encouraged to go to the UK for years to play in the Open Championship, but travel in those days was a bit tougher than it is now. The first transatlantic flight service from New York to Europe wasn't offered until October of '53. So if you wanted to travel to Scotland to, play in a golf tournament, well, you had to cruise there on an ocean liner. And once you arrived, there was still no guarantee that you would play in the tournament. Even for Hogan, a major tournament winner, there was a mandatory 36-hole qualifier. Now, of course, Hogan had no issues there, and when the tournament started on Wednesday, well, he was ready to go. But apparently, his putter was not. Hogan struggled on the greens, and after shooting a 1 par 73 in round 1, he was 3 shots off the pace. Despite his putting issues continuing during Thursday's second round, Hogan managed a 1 71 to pull within 2 shots of the lead. Hogan had made friends with the only American journalist to make the trip to cover the tournament that year. CBS radio man John Durr remembers that in just a short period of time, Hogan had managed to endear himself to the locals, and they embraced him.
You could just see the groundswell of support for Hogan. And Ben said to me, he said, "I've never heard this from an American audience." But there was a unified appraisal and appreciation of William Benjamin Hogan.
Friday the 10th was a 36-hole marathon. Hogan woke up that morning feeling ill, and he battled the effects of the flu throughout the day. But that did not hinder his golf. His morning round was chugging along just fine until a double bogey at 17. He managed to glue the pieces back together with a birdie at 18 to finish with a round of 70 and move into a tie for the lead with Roberto DiVincenzo. Durr proved to be a key ally on the fairways as an intelligence gatherer for Hogan. Now, there were no scoreboards on the course, so the golfers really didn't have an idea of where they were stacking up with everybody else in the field, or if anybody was posting a really low number. Durr provided information to Hogan throughout his final round to let him know where he stood. After DiVincenzo pushed his drive out of bounds at the 9th, it left Hogan alone on the imaginary leaderboard. He chipped in for birdie at the 5th hole, rolled in another one on the 6th. By the 13th, he was told he had a 2-shot lead. And when he hit the green at 15, he turned to Durr and told him to go set up his radio broadcast equipment because this tournament is over. Hogan made birdie at the 18th for a final round of 68 to win the Open Championship by 4 shots. Now, there are several reasons Hogan had success at Carnoustie. He was perhaps the best ball striker to ever play the game. He played with such precision that he turned the tough 6th hole into his playground. There is a large bunker in the middle of the fairway that most golfers avoid by hitting right of it, putting the approach further away. Instead, Hogan hit a narrow stretch between the cavernous bunker and out of bounds, a mere 23 paces separating the two hazards, all 4 rounds. After the tournament, folks started calling it Hogan's Alley. Hogan is still the only golfer to win the Masters, U.S. Open, and British Open titles in the same year. So, did he win the PGA Championship that year? He did not. He didn't even play in it. The reason is that at this point, there really was not a consideration for a Grand Slam. The 1953 PGA Championship was a match play event held July 1st through the 7th. So while the tournaments didn't officially overlap, There was just no way to play both with travel time and the fact that the Open required golfers to play a 36-hole qualifier before the event started. After Hogan's win in '53, though, PGA Tour officials realized it would be in their best interest to move the PGA Championship to another time so as not to conflict. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Books, and with you being a sports fan just like me, here's 2 suggestions for your next great sports read. If you love basketball, then you need to add Dave Zarum's book, NBA 75, The Definitive History. Uncover untold stories of triumph, controversy, and the greatest stars of the game. From the league's humble beginnings to its modern glory, it is a courtside seat to 75 years of NBA history. And if you're a golf fanatic, then you gotta check out Matt Adams' book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget. I've used it as a reference in this podcast over the past year for lots of stories that I've done, and I can tell you from experiencing it, this is a great book. Relive 50 of golf's most memorable moments through the eyes of the legends themselves. It's the closest you'll ever get to walking the fairways with the greatest to ever play the game. Grab your copy of NBA 75 or The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, available from Firefly, wherever you get your books. Jack Nicklaus made a lot of great shots in his career, and I've talked about a few of those here on this podcast. Well, on this day in 2010, Nicklaus hit an amazing shot that you probably have never heard about. Now, Nicklaus had not played competitive golf since 2005, but he was still designing golf courses, and on this day it was the grand opening of the golf club at Harbor Shores at Grand Harbor, Michigan, a course he'd designed. Nicklaus, along with Arnold Palmer, Tom Watson, and Johnny Miller, were playing a friendly round for a small gallery, and it was being shot for future broadcast, so there is video of the event, and they were all mic'd up. Well, when the group got to the 10th green, Miller's ball was technically on the green, but in a different zip code 102 feet away from the cup, with wide sweeping breaks and a couple of large mounds in the way. Well, Miller had his putter in his hand, but he was about to change out to a wedge. And that's when Nicklaus showed him how to do it.
No.
Johnny's saying there's no way you can make it from down
There's
there.
no chance putting it.
Why? He's hit a good putt.
There's no
Want me to show
chance.
you how to putt it?
You can't. There you go. Yeah, show me how to do it.
I think you showed him. You cannot script that any better. Johnny says there's no way you can make it from down there without chipping. Look at Tom Watson.
He didn't plumb bob it, kneel down to take a look at it, didn't even wait for Johnny Miller to stop talking, just tossed the ball down and wrapped it up the hill to drop the bomb. It meant absolutely nothing, and yet it was just one more great moment when Nicklaus hit a putt nobody thought he could make. If only Vern Lundquist could have been there to give us a
maybe. Yes, sir!
It would have made it just a little more magical. This episode is brought to you by the Sterling Soap Company. Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, cologne, and many more personal care products in a large variety of scents, you're sure to find something that's perfect for you or that special someone in your life. Check them out at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1999, it was a Women's World Cup goal remembered more for what happened after than before or even the goal itself. This was the U.S. versus China in the World Cup final. More than 90,000 people piled into the Rose Bowl and 20 million were watching on television. It was a hot day in Pasadena, 120 degrees down on the field, and after 90 minutes, it was still a scoreless game. So they went to extra time. And this game could have ended so much differently, and it's interesting to wonder how history would have changed had Christine Lilly not saved a header off the line in the 100th minute. That kept the score sheet clean, and after 120 minutes, it was still a scoreless tie. So it went to PKs to decide the World Cup. After the first 2 rounds, it was tied at 2 apiece. U.S. keeper Brianna Scurry saved the third Chinese PK, and that opened the door for the U.S. Christine Lilly and Mia Hamm both made their PKs, and when Brandi Chastain walked to the PK spot, she had a shot to win it. Now, she had actually missed a PK in a pre-World Cup match against China in March. In that one, the Chinese goalkeeper Gao Hong had used a little intimidation, walking off the line and standing right in front of her for a moment before her take. Chastain had made eye contact and lost a bit of concentration, and she misfired. With that in the back of her mind, Chastain knew before she even made the walk from midfield that she was going to use 1, her left foot, and 2, was not going to make any eye contact with Gao. Chastain struck it, Gao guessed correctly and lunged for it, but the placement was perfect, glancing off the inside of the post and hitting the back of the net.
Go!
Of course, what happened next is probably still vivid in your memory. Chastain ripped off her jersey, waved it once in the air, and dropped to her knees, mobbed by her teammates. That picture was everywhere afterwards, and she has been asked about it ever since.
There's this rush of emotion and adrenaline and relief and joy that you can't, one, anticipate, and you surely can't define, that just, it comes over you. And I think it was just a moment of great satisfaction. I was super happy the game was over and that we had won. And maybe in the back of my mind, like we were talking about baseball a little bit, you've seen maybe some of the players when you're a younger player do that in celebration, and maybe that was a part of it, but it was extreme joy, extreme happiness.
It was a watershed moment for women's soccer and women's athletics in general. As Chastain put it, it changed the social fabric around women's athletics. The interest generated by the women's success in the '99 World Cup inspired the next generation of women's soccer players. It was the most watched Women's World Cup until 2015. The U.S. women were also the first team to win 2 World Cup titles and hold the World Cup title and Olympic title at the same time. Now on to 2011, and the excitement generated after '99 had dissipated a good bit, and interest had waned. Attendance was down across the board. In the final tune-up match before the U.S. women went to Germany for the World Cup, only 6,000 fans showed up. The WPS, the Women's Professional Soccer League, was close to shuttering its doors. Women's soccer in the U.S. needed an injection of energy. But down 2-1 to Brazil in the waning moments of their quarterfinal match, the U.S. women were looking at their earliest exit in World Cup history. Ian Darke was calling the action for ESPN that day, and he was closing up shop, ringing the death knell for their World Cup chances. And to be fair, there was really no reason to believe a lightning strike was anywhere on the horizon. Oh, and the U.S. was also playing down a player after defender Rachel Bueller was sent off in the 65th minute. After Carly Lloyd sailed a shot over the crossbar in the 120th minute, Brazil was content to kill the clock in the corner. But the U.S. got the ball back deep in their own end. And then this happened.
Rapinoe gets a crossing. It's towards Wambach. Abby Wambach has saved the USA's life in this World Cup.
Wambach's goal was impressive in execution and its timing, but Megan Rapinoe's ball into the box was a thing of beauty. Her non-dominant left-footed cross was perfectly hit from 45 yards out, curling just over the outstretched fingertips of the Brazilian goalkeeper right to Wambach, who buried it in the back of the net, tying the game at 2 apiece. It went to PKs, and when Alex Krieger slotted her shot into the left corner, the U.S. advanced to the semis, winning 5-3 on PKs. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. If you find yourself flying into LAX or Portland's PDX, you may be interested to know that the X is just a filler and it has no relevant meaning. Prior to the 1930s, airports were designated by 2 letters, but as air travel gained popularity and more airports started popping up, airport codes expanded to 3 letters. Those already established mostly got an X thrown on at the end. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
The Sports History Network, where legends live on and the past plays loud. Welcome to the place where history's proud. From gridiron glory to the hardwood stars, from the racetrack heat to Olympic bars. It's the voices, the stories, the moments you miss, told by fans and pros who live for this. Hook and Themic, the Sports History Network, where the past comes alive. Podcasts and blogs that keep the flame high. From Babe to Brady, Alley to the Dome. If it's history and sports, then this is the home. SportsHistoryNetwork.com, the headquarters of sports yesteryear.